Okay, so let's take a look at the AP Computer Science Principles exam for 2023-2024. This is going to be a series of videos. This first one is just overviewing the exam itself with an emphasis on the multiple choice version. The next video will focus on the written portion of the exam, and then I'll go through and break down each of the 5 big ideas at a smaller level, and we'll mix in some review questions along the way. So let's get started. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're going to do the exam overview the 5 big ideas. We'll do that today, and then also go back in detail in the exam breakdown, and then towards the end I'll share some more resources with you, and then any final tips and takeaways. So most of you should be aware of this, but just in case you're not, the multiple choice exam, you will have 2 hours. Unless you have an accommodation for extended time, you need to talk with your teacher, your AP coordinator about that. But for most students, you'll have 2 hours to answer 70 multiple choice questions. Of those 70 questions, 57 are what we call single select, just your typical, regular question. There will also be 5 single select questions that come along with a reading passage. More often than not, it is kind of expected based on practice exams that those are probably going to be questions dealing with data and how it's used, probably looking at big ideas 1 and 2. Doesn't mean it will be, but if you've done a lot of practice questions, a lot of those kind of deal with that, and or getting into big idea 5, looking at harmful beneficial effects, bias. Those are usually the types of questions that are lumped in with those 5 single select questions. A lot of times those questions also may have the Roman numerals, and you're selecting which of the Roman numerals are correct, but they still just have 1 correct answer. Then you will have 8 questions that are multi-select, meaning there are 2 correct answers. You have to get both answers correct for it to be scored correctly. And these 70 multiple choice questions will be calculated using a formula. It is my understanding they are kind of weighted for difficulty that goes into it, but overall there's no penalty for missing a question, so you are encouraged, even if you don't know, to try to narrow it down to maybe 2 options at least, and then make a guess from there. But you do want to answer every question. It's not like the SAT where a blank answer doesn't penalize you as much as a wrong answer. You want to answer every question, and that's going to make up 70% of your overall AP score. The rest is made up of the written response that will come after your 2-hour window for the multiple choice test. You'll have an additional hour for that. You'll be getting 2 written response questions. Question 1 and then question 2 will be broken down into 3 parts, so it's a total of 4 prompts. You will have 1 hour for that. That, in conjunction with the project you submitted to the digital portfolio, will make up 30% of your score. All right, so this is also a reference that you may see when we go over the big ideas. It's just the computational thinking practices, what they're looking for, things that hopefully you've covered throughout the year. So computational solution design, algorithms and program development, abstraction and program development, code analysis, computing innovations, and responsible computing. Those are kind of 6 parts of computational thinking, and you can kind of see the skills. So as we're going over the big ideas, if you see like 1A, 1B, 3B, that's what it's referring to. So students, it's helpful to know, but this is more for teachers as we sort of plan out activities and lessons throughout the year to make sure we're covering all of this. Okay, so the 5 big ideas are broken down to creative development, data, algorithms and programming, computer systems and networks, and the impact of computing. And the way those questions are represented on the exam, creative development has an exam weight of 10 to 13%, meaning that you're going to have anywhere from 7 to 9 questions out of the 70 based on creative development. Data, a little bit more, 17 to 22%, 11 to 15 questions. Here is the big chunk, algorithms and programming. That is 30 to 35% of the exam. All right, and that will be 21 to 25 questions. Computer systems and networks is 11 to 15%, 7 to 11 questions. And the impact of computing, another larger section, 21 to 26%, 14 to 18 questions. So obviously we want to master all of these big ideas, but if you're gonna pick 2, algorithms and programming, the impact in computing, there's a chance just those 2 categories alone could make up over 60% of the exam questions. So a lot of these areas do overlap. You may have a question about data that falls under data, but it also might have something to do with the impact of computing. So it's not as though they're just singular. They can cover both ideas at once, so that's why you sort of see the range here. Year to year, there may be a creative development question that also ties in something to do with programming. So they can kind of double up a little bit. All right, so that will end this video, just kind of overviewing the exam. I will do a separate video focusing on the written exam, and then we will also look at the 5 big ideas one at a time.